phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
These past few seasons for the Jacksonville Jaguars have not been the best. They have not gone to the playoffs since the 2018 AFC Championship game, where they barely lost to the New England Patriots, and they were even beating them at one time in the game. They even seemed like they were going to win at one point, and that whole team seems like it's been traded away and blown up in a sense. And right now, in the 2020 NFL season, they sit at 1-6 in last place in the AFC South, and it never seems like they're going to be good in the future due to the ownership and how everyone who is good is getting traded pretty much every season. But today I'm going to talk about one of the most underrated players in the NFL and a bright spot on their team and an unexpected breakout player in James Robinson. James Robinson grew up in Rockford, Illinois, and he attended Rockford Lutheran High School, where he played basketball and football, and this guy was a star at football, obviously. As a senior, he rushed for 2,461 yards with 44 touchdowns and was named Class 4A All-State, and he set IHSA records with 9,045 rushing yards and 158 rushing touchdowns in his career. The dude was a straight baller. Despite being a star on the gridiron, James Robinson did not get very many looks coming out of high school. In the class of 2016, according to 247 Sports, he was ranked as the 1,757th best player in the nation, the 120th best running back, and the 48th best player in the state of Illinois. And he only had 2 Division I offers, one from Iowa and the other from Illinois State. He decided to stay near home and go to Illinois State. In the 2016 college football season, James Robinson, with Illinois State as a true freshman, he would get some pretty good playing time. He would appear in 9 games, have 322 rushing yards, averaging 5 yards a carry about, with 2 rushing touchdowns, 109 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. But Illinois State this season was pretty mediocre to say the best. They did pull an upset on Northwestern in a 9-7 victory, but they ended the season going 6-6. James Robinson, as a sophomore in the 2017 college football season, would start his first ever season as the starting running back for Illinois State, and he played pretty well. In the 11 games he played in, he had 933 rushing yards, averaging 6 yards a carry, with 12 rushing touchdowns, only 75 receiving yards, and 0 receiving touchdowns. But just like the 2016 college football season, the 2017 college football season for Illinois State was really similar. Even though they only played 11 games compared to the 12 in the 2016 season, the records were pretty similar. In the 2017 season, they ended up going 6-5 compared to the season prior where they went 6-6. In the 2018 college football season, James Robinson would now be an upperclassman on Illinois State's football team, and he would keep on getting better each year, and it was evident through his stats and the way he played. In the 11 games he played with Illinois State this season, he rushed for 1,290 yards, averaging an impressive 6.3 yards a carry with 12 rushing touchdowns, 164 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown. But Illinois State was pretty mediocre this season yet again. Just like the 2017 season, they went 6-5 again. In the 2019 college football season, James Robinson, who is now a senior, was out for blood. He wanted to make the playoffs, along with his teammates. He has never made the playoffs so far in his football career at Illinois State, and he wanted to reach it. And it's something he hasn't done. He only had 1 season left to do it, and this was the season that he wanted to do it. In the 15 games he played with Illinois State, he rushed for 1,899 yards, averaging 5 a carry with 18 rushing touchdowns and only 80 receiving yards. This season, Illinois State would end up going 10-5, their best season yet with James Robinson. And the thing was, they made it all the way to the playoffs, but they ended up losing in the 3rd round of the FCS playoffs to the team that won the national title, North Dakota State. You know, the powerhouse. And they didn't lose the game by a lot either. They only lost 3-9. After the 9-3 loss to North Dakota State, James Robinson's college football career at Illinois State was now over. But he left his mark on the football team's program, as I would say he was one of the best players in their football team's history. He would end up finishing his college career with 4,444 yards of rushing, the second most in their school's history. Although James Robinson was a complete baller at Illinois State, and I would argue one of their best football players in their school's history, he would not hear his name called in the 2020 NFL Draft, and he would be passed by all 32 NFL teams. Despite not hearing his name called in the 2020 NFL Draft, James Robinson would not have to wait very long to be signed to an NFL team. He would be picked up as an undrafted free agent on April 27th, 2020 by Jacksonville. But there would be no 2020 NFL preseason, and that would definitely stand in James Robinson's way, or at least it would seem that way for all undrafted free agents and fringe players on NFL rosters trying to make a team. But that did not stand in the way for James Robinson, as he would make the 53-man regular season roster for Jacksonville. Not only did James Robinson make the 53-man roster for the Jacksonville Jaguars, he would also be named the starting running back just a few days later after he made the 53-man roster. And this is in big part to Leonard Fournette being released by the Jacksonville Jaguars, but it was also because James Robinson was eating up, and honestly, he's playing better than what Leonard Fournette was doing last season, and he's healthy so far, and he's more versatile as well. So far in the 2020 NFL season with Jacksonville, James Robinson has played in 7 games and started in all 7 games. As of the recording of this video, he has had 481 rushing yards with 4.5 yards per carry and 4 touchdowns. And despite not being a big receiving threat at Illinois State, he is pretty versatile and is a big part of the receiving game for Jacksonville, I would say. He has 27 receptions on the season with 225 receiving yards, averaging 8 yards a reception and 2 touchdowns. And despite being passed up by all 32 teams on draft night for the 2020 NFL Draft, James Robinson right now is considered one of the better rookies in the NFL, and it's definitely justified. Although Jacksonville might be 1-6 right now and are clearly tanking, and they might even trade away a few more pieces in the future, they are clearly having a bright future in that running back spot with James Robinson there. James Robinson is their breakout star in the 2020 season, and I can say no one expected this. Someone I would like to compare him to is Philip Lindsay, his rookie season with the Denver Broncos. It's just this time I hope with James Robinson that he doesn't get hurt as much. If James Robinson can stay healthy the rest of this season, I definitely expect him to get near up to 1,000 yards of rushing and to have over 1,000 yards all-purpose. This guy is a beast, and I think more people need to know who he is, because a lot of people I see who know him just know him off fantasy football, and I feel like people need to know him more than just fantasy football. Yes, he is one of the better running backs in fantasy football, and I know this from experience. He is on my fantasy football team, and he is good every week for me, and that's the reason why I picked him up. But people need to notice that this guy is more than just fantasy football points. This guy is a straight baller in real life too. That's all I have for the video today, guys. Remember to smash that like button, turn on them post notifications, and subscribe for more videos. B. Kelly out.